I can't find my pen.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
I feel naked without my pen. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to talk about the 12-team playoff and Dabo Swinney's comments on it. I also want to talk a little bit about Nick Saban, Bryce Young, and name, image, and likeness. So let's start with the headline here. The headline is, shocker, Dabo Swinney is not a fan of the 12-team playoff expansion, which is not yet what we're doing, but it looks like what we're doing if you're just paying attention to tea leaves. And before we get into that, let's just say this. Nick Saban is not complaining about an expanded playoff. Oklahoma's not complaining, not at all. LSU, nobody is really into the idea of not expanding the playoff because everybody understands what this means for the sport. It means uniting it across the country. It's no longer going to be as regionalized as it was. I still want to see it get to 16. I want to see 10 AQs and 6 at-larges because we've got 10 conferences in the FBS, 130 teams. I'm asking for 16 of 130 to play for a national championship in a playoff bracket. Not unlike what they do in the NBA. 14 teams in the NFL. You're going to have 16 teams in the NHL. You got 16 teams in Major League Baseball. Look, this is a good idea. But let's air out what Dabo Swinney thinks. And I love how he couched this. He couched this on his team, saying, in quotes here, our team wasn't for it. Like, if you poll every last one of those players, they're all going to say that they're not for it. All right. They don't want to play more games. And to be honest with you, I don't think there's 12 teams good enough. So you've got to play more games just to play more games. And I think the more you expand it, the less important the season becomes. Shocker. The dude running the ACC does not want to expand the playoff. Now, when we see the NFC East champion, we always know the NFC champion is, for the most part, last 5 years, been garbage, been trash, been just terrible. And yet, when the team showed up in the playoffs last year, we got a good game. Y'all got to say Taylor Heineke's name. We got an extra game of Chase Young. And I think as we get more toward pay for play, you're going to see more of this because it creates more money. And as much as the commissioners and the conferences themselves do not want to say, hey, this is about money. If it ain't about money, how come you're getting paid so much? If it ain't about money, how come the SEC goes from making $50 million a year to $300 million a year? If it ain't about money, how come Dabo Swinney is one of the highest paid coaches in the sport? About $10 million a year. Because it is about money. And the only people not getting money in this thing are the players. And that's coming to change a little bit with name, image, and likeness, which we'll touch on with Bryce Young here in a second. But I also wanted to get at this. If you are one of those teams that is ranked inside the top 4, you're probably going to get a bye. But even so, you play 15 games if you are playing in the national championship. So Clemson and them are already playing more games than everybody else. Hello? 12-game regular season. You got to play 3 more on top of that if you want to get to the college football playoff national championship game. And I'm asking for 1 more on top of that. Not 8, not 12. You're not playing a 24-game season. You're barely playing 16, and at most you play 17, which is the regular season for the NFL. And yes, this is a $5 billion sport. And anytime somebody's getting paid to put something on television, for me, it's a professional sport, okay? I have never seen anybody run from a playoff expansion argument that isn't afraid to get the butt kicked. Okay? You want everybody. You want all comers. And if you don't think there are 12 teams that are good enough, then it shouldn't be a thing for you to play a glorified spring game against number 12. It shouldn't be that difficult. You should be able to field all the dudes that don't play football for you during the regular season because perhaps your regular season is just that tough. Because if you think you're that good, this is not your argument, okay? I thought this was the place where you don't back down from anybody. You play everybody. All comers. Is that not what it is? And when you get all comers, you get the spoils of war, right? Alabama is reaping those right now. Bryce Young has not played a snap, and yet Nick Saban said at Texas High School Coaches Convention that Bryce Young is making close to $1 million in name, image, and likeness before he even plays a snap of football. That's how I wanted it to be. That's not going to what it's be for everybody else. But when people say they think that college football is going to become even more, or not even more, just lopsided, the rich are going to get richer. Have you not been paying attention to 150 years of college football? That's the way this has always been. That's called capitalism. So if you're arguing against it, are you arguing for socialism? Because I'm going to tell you, the NFL is a great argument for socialism because the worst team gets the first pick. There's slotted value, right? We come to understand this as it's about the collective. It's not about one individual person or one individual team. Okay? You share television revenue money. Excuse me. I'm getting into this, and what I see is hypocrisy. I see people talking out of both sides of their mouths, and I can't stand it. That is the reason I'm sitting here talking to you about this right now, because I have always said, expand the playoffs 16 teams. In the FCS, they got 24. If it gets to 24, I'm going to be the person just clapping my hands. But 16, I think, is a good number. I'm also the person that is not hypocritical to you about this, okay? I know what I believe and why I believe it. So when you have somebody that is making tens of millions of dollars, who also does not want to see the sport grow, I got to ask why. Because that's what expanding the playoff does. It grows the sport. It gives everybody incentive to care in a way that they would never care before. When you know you're going to get the Mountain West Conference champion into the college football playoff, you have folks from Idaho to California to Massachusetts to South Carolina to Clemson that actually care, and it matters in the way that we care about the NFL. Folks who root for the Dallas Cowboys care about what happens to the New Orleans Saints, care about what happens to the New England Patriots, care about what happens to the Seattle Seahawks, because there are only 32 teams, and yet half of them, or a little less than half of them, get into the playoff. And nobody is mad about that because they've been doing it long enough that it's just become old hat. That's what I want to see with college football. All right, I am headed to Big Ten Media Days. Subscribe to the #1 ranked show here and the podcast, wherever it is you get your audio podcast. I can't wait to talk with everybody from Ryan Day to Paul Chris to Scott Frost to, my goodness, we're going to get Zach Harrison, Jeremy Ruckert, Tanner Morgan. It's going to be such a good time. Keep it locked here. We will have the Big Ten Media Day episodes starting for you the following Monday. And, of course, tomorrow we're going to have day 2 of the Big 12 Media Days, in which we get to talk with Texas coach Steve Sarkisian. We also get to talk to Baylor coach Dave Aranda. We get to talk to Texas Tech coach Matt Wells. It's going to be such a good time. All right, that's it for me. Doses.